Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, JC Unfiltered. This is our third video already. Again, one of many from our multiple series that we have going on. My name is Joel, and I do make music. Once again, it's J Rose Music Official. That's JROSE Music Official, all social media platforms. Check out my new song, Complications, that I just released not too long ago, which is about love, the complications and the complexities of love inside and out, and just how that can drive you insane sometimes if you let it.
Yeah, my name is Corey, and today I guess we'll be talking about, in honor of Pride Month, we'll be talking about our coming out stories, and I guess all that entails with that, in terms of how we came out to ourselves and when we first knew, and how I guess the world around us reacted, and ever since then, like our journey together and what that's been like. So, I guess I could start.
We made prompts on our phones. So if we're looking down, we're just looking at the prompts that we made, the notes, just so we don't lose track of what we are talking about and where we're going.
Yes. So, when did I first start realizing I was queer? Wow, this is crazy. So basically, I feel like I've always had an inkling, but it's honestly been the world around me kind of telling me before I even knew what that meant for myself. People have been like kind of trying to put me in a box and label me as gay or queer because I was different. Well, growing up, I think it started in I guess kindergarten. I never really, had full on like crushes with girls. I've never and all the crushes that I've had, I feel like were kind of orchestrated in a way. I felt like kind of left out because other people were like having crushes on girls and stuff and other people, and I feel like, well, if everybody else is doing it, people would ask me like, who's you crushing on and stuff. I would know what to say, so I'd kind of just like choose somebody and like make it up. And I feel like that kind of went on for the longest time, honestly. Like up to like high school, and into high school I feel like it was kind of like a pressure to kind of orchestrate that feeling, even if it didn't come organically for me. I grew up in like a Catholic school, in the Catholic school system, so the religiosity of it all is another factor. But yeah, so I feel like I've always kind of had an inkling that I was different. I never really, I guess, fully unraveled it until I left the kind of school system. But yeah, what about you?
So when I first knew, so to give you guys some background, I come from a Latin Jamaican family. So my mom's Latin, my dad's Jamaican, and just that adds context. Because with that being said, both of my parents are very conservative. Dare I say, also too homophobic, just from comments that I've heard growing up. But I was always a very expressive kid as a child, so I never followed the heteronormative ways that I guess a boy should be, growing up. So I was always a very expressive child. I was very emotional. I was in touch with that side. I would cry when I wanted to cry. Just again, as I said, very expressive. And I grew up with brothers, so I have all brothers. And so growing up, I just remember like constantly, like my brother's always saying like, "Oh, are you gay? Like, why do you act like that? Like, why are you crying like that? You're crying like a girl. You're crying like this. You're crying like that," which shouldn't necessarily be linked with being gay, just being expressive. But we live in a very toxic, masculine kind of society where a man or even boys, like growing up, they can't be those types of ways. If they're not playing with like Tonka trucks and they're not, just rolling around and getting dirty, then there's something wrong. And I was also a child that was very close with my mother. So like anywhere my mother went, I wanted to go. I didn't really care for my dad too much for many different reasons, but I was just always very close with my mother because there was something about that maternal emotionality that really resonated with me. And I can't necessarily say that I knew since I was small that I was gay, but I can say that I knew since I was small that there was something more to who I am. and what I guess identify as a whole, as a human being, because as I said, I didn't fit in with those I guess normative how should I say, like, examples of what a boy should be, because I was also like, I loved to sing. I loved karaoke machines. I loved to, just express myself differently. I wasn't, just typically just rolling around getting dirty and all those types of things, but I did those things as well. But I also had a side of me that was just so passionate and so expressive and just so just free in my mentality. So I didn't necessarily know and figure those things out until I was in early elementary school, maybe grade 6, when I started to develop crushes with boys. And I didn't know. And again, this was all internal. This was never externalized. Nobody knew. I'm a very private kid. As I was a very private kid. I'm a very private adult. Nobody knew. It was all inner dialogue, and I started like having attractions to other males, and I didn't understand why, because I also had attraction to girls as well. So, but little did I know, I was trying to follow what a boy should be, which is liking a female and having your girlfriend, your first kiss with a girl, and whatever. But there was like a part inside of me that felt like I resonated more with boys, but I fought that constantly. And I'll get into that a little bit more in the video, but I guess I should say I didn't start having those kind of inklings until I was early elementary school, as I said, grade 6, grade 7, and then it progressed as I got into high school, and I got to establish myself and learn more about myself. But I'll get into that a little bit later.
Yeah, I feel like you talking about that kind of like reignited like some memories, because I remember I used to like braid Barbie dolls' hairs. I used to like play with like the girls' dolls, but I used to also have like my own like Bratz dolls and like boy versions of those things. But I also used to like action figures and like superheroes and cars and stuff. So it was like a dichotomy in that sense. And I remember like I wanted to join knitting class, a knitting club, I mean. And I brought it up to my dad, and he like completely like shut it down, like burnt that dream to the ground. Cause I thought it was cool to like play with textiles and like create my own like garments and stuff. But he completely shut that down, and he said it was like gay and like it's bad. Like it's for girls. Like you don't need to be doing that and stuff like that. And I feel like I grew up in a Caribbean household, so my mother is from Barbados and my dad was from Grenada. And again, a bunch of conservative kind of views from those kind of cultures colliding. But yeah, I feel like it was a slow unraveling, and it was semi-confusing, because I feel like anytime, growing up in the early 2000s, it was like there's not much gay representation in the media. And then as it slowly kind of progressed, I feel like the first kind of examples of that was, I didn't personally watch Glee, but I remember Glee was like one of them. But also like I remember watching American Idol with my family and seeing like I think it was Adam Lambert, and seeing him on TV and stuff, and like hearing what my parents would like comment with like those types of things, or like even having like a gay uncle and stuff, and like seeing how my family kind of reacted with that kind of taught me, and like a gay cousin too, like taught me like like, okay, this part of myself that is even a potentiality, I guess, like a seed of something, isn't even something like worth exploring or divulging, especially again like growing up in like a Catholic school and stuff too. So did you find it confusing for you?
Sorry. So I had to just unlock the memory. When I was a kid, I used to have a Chucky doll, and I used to French braid its hair. I used to enjoy combing its hair and like putting it in French braids, and that was like, like him mentioning like the Bratz dolls. I was just imagining that, and I lost it somewhere. So if anybody ever comes across an Oshawa, like a Chucky doll with a French braid, it's mine. I want it back. But no, again, just like kind of touching to like what he was saying. Just like kind of doing those types of things. And also too, I used to like Camp Rock. So I used to watch Camp Rock a lot. And one year for Christmas, this was when I was about maybe not 10 or 11. I asked my mom for like a Camp Rock. It was like a little air guitar. It was like a little locker, and when like you open up the locker, you hear music in it. And then it was like a little doll of like Sunny. I know, not Sunny. What was the girl's name from Camp Rock? She's Sunny in another thing. Demi Lovato.
What's she?
I forgot her name. I don't know, but I had a little doll of her, and like when you pull the string in the back, it starts singing. And I remember that like I had those things, and like I loved them. Like I loved singing, but like something about Camp Rock, like it had me in a chokehold. I'm sure I had a lot of you guys in a chokehold too, but I just remember one year, like my dad seen me with those things, and like he said, "Oh, that stuff's for faggots." He's like, "You shouldn't be using that. You shouldn't be playing with those things. Those stuff are for girls." And he beat me with a belt, threw all of my stuff in like a garbage bag and threw it in the garbage. And he was like so angry, he was so upset. And I didn't understand like why he was so upset. And also too, I had like something called a Digimon, which was like the PSP before PSP was a PSP, if you know, you know. And it was like a little handheld system. And I had like a Hannah Montana game. The game was lit too. It was super sick. But I just remember I used to love playing it. I used to play it like up in my room. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing nothing. And again, my dad grabbed it and he smashed it. And he stepped on it and he broke it. And he said, "Men don't do these types of things. That's for like gay people." And he said it a little bit more harsh and brash in patois, but I'm not even gonna go into that. I'm sure you can make up what he said, but again, like those types of things, it used to hurt me, and it hurt me for a long time. It actually emotionally scarred me because I was just existing. I was just being who I was, and I didn't understand why me being who I am and just existing and just liking what I like, why that was an issue. And it was those times and those kind of instances, one of many that happened, that started to grow something within me, that started to realize that there's something bigger than the program. There's something going on. And there's clearly something that about me that he doesn't like, and that's not resonating with him. And it's almost like my existence was annoying him. And that's when I started to kind of reflect on myself. I said, what's wrong with me? Like, what is wrong with me? Am I doing something wrong? Am I what I'm engaging in wrong? Should I not watch that? And for the longest time after that, when Sunny with a Chance like would have reruns, I would turn it off, and I would turn it off the family channel, and I'd go on Teletoon, and I tried to emulate what my father wanted me to be, knowing that I wasn't comfortable, but just thinking that this was the right way because it would make my dad happy and it would please him. And to my own detriment and to my own, suffering. And I'm sure a lot of children, a lot of people have went through that. And, I grew up just thinking constantly something was wrong with me. Mind you, this was before I knew that I was, gay or even had that kind of inkling. I had no idea. Again, I was just existing. It had nothing to do with me being gay. It's just, I enjoyed Camp Rock. I enjoyed French braiding Chucky's hair. I enjoyed doing those types of things. And, I didn't understand what was wrong with it. And so again, that really traumatized me, and that really kind of, it scarred me deeply, because that set forth my image going through school, going through high school, and just growing up, because I'm like, okay, suppress that side of you that might engage into things that people would consider feminine, and continue to emulate the quote unquote heteronormative masculine man. Because anything other than that is a red flag, and that's wrong. What's wrong with society? And I embedded that into my head, and because of that, I didn't get to fully understand myself until I felt that I was free to express myself going into adulthood, because I was afraid of disappointing people around me and my family around me. I was afraid of being judged for who I am, and I was afraid of the world looking at me like I'm a problem. And little did I know at the time that I'm not a problem. What's the problem is, as I said, is what's bigger than the program is toxic masculinity. That's the problem, because there's a lot of males now who are afraid to express themselves, whether they're gay, whether they're not, whether they're bisexual, whether they're straight, it doesn't matter. They're afraid to express themselves due to this toxic masculine image that is more times hard to attain. And when it's attained, it's fake. It's an act, it's a bravado to please society and those around us. Because again, anything outside of what a man should be, according to the media, according to the image that is portrayed from conservative mindsets, etc., anything that goes against that is a red flag, and that immediately means you're gay. So there's a lot of individuals who aren't even gay and don't even grow up as gay, but they're more expressive and they're more in touch with their emotional side, that they're put in that category because, again, people can't open up their minds to the fact that not everybody is the same. And toxic masculinity is a construct that was made to destroy the man and not necessarily build them up. And that's a very, very, very difficult topic to talk about. But I'm standing 10 toes down on it, and I said what I said.
Yeah. I feel like there's a lot of people that are just wearing masks full of like ego, full of like what they were kind of shaped into, and then like that toxic masculinity connects back directly to like patriarchy and upholding that system, and like capitalism and even colonialism, and but those are all that's
Another time.
another time. Let me go back to the list. Okay, so in terms of like coming out to yourself, how was that kind of struggle, and like what internal battles or moments of like acceptance, I guess, did you have?
So
Revelation.
I can say that I officially came out to myself when I was in grade 9. So I would have been about, and this was my first year of high school. So I was about maybe 15, 16 maybe? 16.
No,
15,
like 15,
yeah,
14, 15.
14 or 15. And again, this was an accumulation of different events that happened within my life, and self-realizations, transformations, evolutions, self-reflections, etc. So this wasn't just like one day I woke up and I said, okay, I'm gay, but rather I came to a point where I was comfortable to exist in my skin and who I am. I was comfortable to like what I liked, and I was able to heal from those things that scarred me. Those wounds, actually, I was able to heal over, and they turned into scars, but I was able to, again, grow from that pain. And I was able to look within myself, and I was able to say, like, Joel, I love you for who you are, and no matter what, I accept you for who you are, because acceptance starts from within. Because if you can accept yourself, you can accept acceptance from anybody else. So essentially, grade 9, I had a realization. I said, and this was, mind you, I've dated, numerous women, and I continue to do so even after this, because I told myself that I have to try. I have to experience, because again, I don't know. I could be bisexual for all I knew. And so I told myself, I said, Joel, you feel more comfortable when, you are like, and mind you, I always had like an attraction. I felt like my attraction for men were stronger. And there was a point when I told myself, I said, Joel, you feel more comfortable when it comes to men versus women, and not because you're uncomfortable with women, because I've had very comfortable interactions with women, very, great relationships with women, and I still find women beautiful and such like that, but my attraction lies with men. And I was able to accept that within high school, because again, high school, it's a bigger world. There's a lot more to see. You're finding yourself, especially within your freshman year, like your first years of high school. It's a big, scary place at first, but you're kind of forced to find yourself. You're forced to find where you fit in, or you get lost in the sauce. And I decided to find myself, and I decided to stand in who I was. And then I started to realize, I said, this is who I am. And if this is who I am, it's okay. And then the self-conflict or the fight within myself, what happened was, again, society suppressing me, the world suppressing me, these heteronormative views suppressing me, toxic masculinity, suppressing me. And it was holding me back from being who I was because I came to this realization internally. But the issue is a lot of us come to these realizations internally. It's external that matters. Because if you keep it internalized, it's not going to externalize and it's not going to materialize. And so that was the issue. It was a battle between me and the world. And then that's when it's like, okay, this is who you are, but you need to suppress that. You can't let anybody know. Friends, family, nobody know, because you're going to be judged. The world's going to see you different. The world's going to put you in a category, and they're going to bunch you up with a whole bunch of people that where you don't even belong. You no longer become Joel. You just gay. You lose your identity, your name, and your identity becomes your sexuality, if that makes sense. And I was afraid of that. So it took me a few years, to the end of high school to battle that, because again, like, I'm not going to express that in high school, and I was very popular in high school. I was one of the more popular kids. I was always involved in the extracurricular activities, sports, different types of things. Like, the last thing I need is this on my record, my sexuality. And that is sad that I seen it that way. But it's the reality. You will be judged. And a lot of people will just say, put yourself out there. It's fine. Who cares what the world thinks? Yeah, tell that to somebody who is trying to find themselves and, who is afraid of what the world may think. Somebody who may have been, perhaps traumatized from even their family, because everything starts with the family and it starts with your environment. We're products of our environment. So starting within a household where I was judged for even, crying a little bit too much and being told that I'm acting gay, or even doing something that your average boy wouldn't do and then being called gay, and everything that you do, to the way that you eat, being saying that you're eating like a gay person, everything. So try to tell it to somebody like that now going into high school, where you're with people who don't even know you. You're with people who image is everything in high school. So I suppressed that a lot and I battled with myself a lot. But then there came to a point in grade 12, after my experiences, and mind you, during these times, I thought, okay, maybe I need to date women. I need to check this out more, because again, I'm like, perhaps this is just a phase. Maybe being gay, maybe what people are saying is true. Being gay is just a phase. Maybe I'm just possessed. Again, I look to religion a lot as well, in hopes that it would cleanse me of my gayness, because perhaps it was the devil tempting me and whatnot. And I seen it as something wrong. So I turned to church. I even got baptized. I was speaking to different individuals within church, hoping that perhaps I can find a way out of this. I was dating women, and I wasn't leading the women on, because I've always had that attraction to women. But however, I was saying, okay, maybe I need to try this again, because maybe there's something that I missed the first time, and maybe I am meant to be with a woman, and this is just all a phase. And so I did those things, but there came a point within grade 12 where I realized I'm suffering. I'm being submerged, and I'm submerging myself, and the person that's at the surface is a makeshift version of how I want the world to perceive me. And that was the problem. I was suffering. I was drowning. I was killing essentially myself, and allowing somebody who is not me to take over, in hopes that I can please those around me, and I can continue to portray that person who I'm not, but who I know people quote unquote want me to be. And there came to a point, grade 12, I said, okay, I'm done. I'm done living this way. I'm done living a lie. I'm done feeling uncomfortable, at my own detriment, to please other people who don't care if I'm here nor there at the end of the day. And you'll find that at the end of most of your friends in high school, hopefully you guys still talk to some, but you probably won't. Again, people come and go, but you need to put yourself first regardless. You need to put your happiness first regardless, no matter who it is. Always put yourself first. And I'm putting myself first, and I'm living in my truth. I'm done living this toxically masculine life that does not portray who I am, and rather it's suppressing who I am, the beauty in who I am. Because I'm suppressing my personality, I'm suppressing my likes, my dislikes. I'm even suppressing the fact that I sing, guys. I used to think that singing, because somebody told me one time that singing is gay, singing is too feminine. I was suppressing my voice, literally, for people. And I told myself, I said, no more. I don't care what people think. I don't give a flying what people think. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to be who I am. If you like me, you like me. If you don't, leave. I don't care. I don't care about what you say about me. I don't care what you think about me. Think whatever the fuck you want about me. At the end of the day, you need to worry about your own life and let me worry about mine. Because I'm going to live in my truth and I'm going to be who I want to be. And the minute I said that, I felt so empowered. Like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. All the traumas and all the things that happened to me were released, and I was free. I felt like a prisoner for the majority of my my youth to adolescent life. I felt like a prisoner. And at that moment, I was free. I took that off of me. I broke the chains, and I immediately got to, I almost got to vindicate myself. I was vindicated that day. I took my power back. I took my power back. I took, all the preconceived notions and all the things that people thought about me, and I completely banished them, and I redeemed myself. It was my redemption now. Now I'm getting my lick back for myself, not for other people. And I felt so good. I felt so good, and I was proud of myself, and I had a moment where I cried because I was graduating too. And I was leaving high school, which is a huge transition, but in a way I was leaving my old self behind, and I was walking into who I truly am. So it was a poetic moment, and it was so beautiful for me because, again, I grew that day, and I shed skin, and I brought that person who was being submerged, I brought them back to surface, and I got to live in my truth. And that's all I've ever wanted my whole life. Was I wanted to be seen for who I am. I wanted to be loved for who I am, and I wanted to be accepted in this world. I wanted a place in this world that would harness who I am at my core, and I got to have that. And let me tell you something, right? I have people around me who love me. I have people around me who support me, and I have people around me who accept me for who I am. And guess what? There's some people that I lost to, because the real truth is there's going to be people that will leave. There's going to be people that judge you. There's going to be people that say certain types of things about you, but it's okay. Live in your truth and live for who you are, no matter what it is, because at the end of the day, you got to be you, and you got to live for you. And what all the other people say, forget what all the other people say, because they all have an opinion, but who cares? Who cares? Who really cares at the end of the day? You care. But the minute you don't care, you take power back from them.
This is real. This is me.
I'm exactly where I'm supposed. Yes.
I was also thinking about.
Gonna let the light shine on me.
Exactly. Yeah. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like, once you start reclaiming that power, that care of, because I feel like it's a lot of it is basically, it's a mix of like experience and like what you've seen, but also like what the world around you is kind of telling you and trying to mold you into, but you have to break out of that and like let your light shine regardless. I feel like for me, it was, internally I feel like I knew in grade 11, honestly. I feel like I was starting to feel things, like I had like maybe like seeds of an inkling in like elementary school, like grade 7, grade 8, but like fully I feel like grade 11. But then even then it was just like I thought I was like more so like bisexual or pansexual, and like because I was still navigating, like I found it easier to like talk to women and talk to like girls and stuff than to like boys and men, because I feel like I never was able to amount to that level of, I guess, heteronormativity. I wouldn't like succumb to like the lingo of my peers, and like I would stay true to like how I talk normally, and like how I dressed. In high school it was uniform, but like even like elementary school I would wear like very like Disney coded. I would wear like very colorful like button ups and like matching like bright pants and like some like really like clean nice shoe, like everything like very like popping like colored. And like nobody else would be like dressing like that. Everybody would be trying to like attain to like whatever's on like, I don't know, depends on who it is, like BT or like depends on who it is, like jean shorts or whatever people were wearing. Like those awful plaid shorts.
Oh god, with the white beater.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh. But like people, I would wear like Osiris. I had like a skater phase and stuff. I would wear like Osiris's and DC. But like, yeah, I think grade 11 is when I started kind of coming out to myself. But even then, like, I feel like at the end of, I was still kind of battling that kind of feeling within myself, especially because I was in, again, a Catholic school. So like with the religiosity of it all, I feel like my relationship with God and stuff, and like my relationship with religion as a whole was like altered. And I feel like at the end of grade 12, I got into like my first semi-serious relationship with a girl. And even that, and how I went about it was, I felt like I was doing it to like appease, like I was friends with this girl for like a year before that, and like towards the end, like it was towards prom time too, so I was trying to like appease like a certain level of expectation that I felt like was placed upon me from like my mom and stuff. And like I said before, like growing up, not forcing myself, but like I guess kind of orchestrating like crushes in my head, and like trying to pursue different like crushes and stuff to like fit in with like the Joneses of like my peers and stuff, trying to go for different girls, and like, oh, who do you have your eye on, thing like that. Like I was like always doing it to like appease somebody else, and like that relationship was like another facet of that, I feel. But I feel like it wasn't until I left high school actually and I went to college, I had to move away outside of my mom's house. I had to move out and move far away to kind of fully let that side of me unravel and kind of explore that.
Villain era.
It was my villain era. It was. Yeah, it was a messy era, but I lived, I learned. I found out for sure that, you know, like the attraction that I had towards girls was like surface level versus the true attraction I had towards like boys and like men and stuff. Like I feel like it was more intimate. It was always like a more, I guess, serious kind of tone. And I always took it like, I guess, more seriously. It made me feel like more, I guess, like butterflies and like, you know, those feelings that would be typically associated with like a romantic, intimate kind of connection. So I feel like that's when that kind of started unraveling for me. So yeah, let me check the prompt.
When you think butterflies, I think of butterflies.
Yes.
I can't control the butterflies.
Oh, the Alicia Keys.
You give me butterflies.
It's an interlude.
Got me flying so high in the sky. I can't control the butterflies.
Internal battles or acceptance moments. How did self-love play a role? So I guess like in terms of self-acceptance and self-love, it's a journey. Honestly, it's the journey. If you know, you know. No, but for real, like it is a journey, and I feel like the lack of self-love got me into predicaments that I shouldn't have been in. But at the end of it all, like when I kind of accumulated that, and when I kind of like drew that energy back within myself and stuff, like it kind of made me realize the bigger picture of, you know, like who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares if you're not perfect? Who cares if you're where the only brother hit or whatever Selena Gomez said. No, but for real, like it made me realize, like, you know, like if I'm not gonna put that first effort of loving myself and radically, unapologetically, like, you know, accepting myself for my whole totality of how I manifested here and on this earth, and like all the aspects of my being that color my life and color my shine, then it's just like, who will? You know?
True.
So what do you think?
Self-love, again, is that's that thing that it's so powerful that it kind of harnesses you in a bubble where you're untouchable. So when it comes to finding yourself and coming out, um, self-love is required in order to exist and to survive. If you don't have self-love, people will sway you back and forth. They will move and they will mold you in whichever way they want. Self-love for me, once I acquired that self-love in all aspects, like people's opinions just became like annoying flies. You just kind of swat them out the way, like one galang, and it just no longer like it no longer mattered. And it's like when somebody like imposed an opinion, even family, like I'm telling you, like the minute I was able to stand up to like my mother and my father, like when they imposed their opinions on me, and I was able to go like, okay, whatever, it kind of like fell off like a non-stick pan. Like immediately, like I told you, like I had my power, like this was my comeback. Nobody could hurt me anymore. And I felt so good that day. Like I remember leaving my home after, my brothers, like so many people had so much things to say about me and who I was. And I'd hear the things that they call me, and like I didn't really care. You know what I mean? Like I just didn't care. I loved myself so much that it just didn't matter. And so self-love, like it saved me, like it really did. It saved me from being somebody who I'm not, and it saved me from living in an unhappy, miserable life. A life that so many people who lack self-love unfortunately live. And it's like it's not even a joke. It's quite sad, because again, as I said, when you don't have that self-love, you're movable, you're moldable. And there's people who are like priors, like they prey on those types of things, and they wait, like, and they take advantage and manipulate people who lack the self-love. Because if you have self-love, your standards sometimes are lower at times. I'm not speaking on everybody, but from what I've noticed, your standards can be lower. So you might do things or engage in things which you might not usually want to do. You might be in places where you might not usually belong, where you probably, more often than not, don't belong. And you'll end up engaging in things that you shouldn't be doing. And so again, just like having that self-love and acquiring that self-love and finding out what it means to love yourself and your truth and who you are, it'll protect you. It'll protect you from anybody trying to prey on you. It will protect you from even yourself trying to self-deprecate and trying to self-sabotage. It'll protect, because sometimes you become your own worst enemy during those times, and you start to hate yourself. You start to emulate somebody else's life, and you start to be jealous. You become jealous and bitter and envious of other people who have self-love, because self-love becomes a stench. It's an odor that you don't like, but it's not that you don't like it, rather it's that you want that for yourself and you don't know how to get that. So you're going to hate on that person who has that, because misery likes company. So you're going to try to bundle them in how you feel. So when you see their light shine, you're going to try to take it from them. You're going to say, not on my watch. And then you become miserable and you become somebody that people don't want to be around. So as I said, self-love saved me from myself. It saved me from the world, and it saved me from losing who I was and who I am. Yeah.
I feel like it's easy to get absorbed into that kind of mentality if you don't have that core grounding anchor of unconditional love for yourself.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Unfortunately, a lot of people fall victim to that.
It's true.
So, coming out to friends and family, who did you tell first?
I told my friend first, my best friend. Shout out to her. If she's watching this, she'll know who she is. I told her first, and the first thing she said was, Joelle, I knew. And I was just like, wait, what? And I was just like, whoa. So I was showing signs the whole time, and I decided, okay, wait, stop. Don't get like that. Don't be like that. You grew from that. You healed from that. But I told her that, and we were eating food, and I just remember she said, I knew. And she said, I mean, like, I still love you. She said, nothing really changed. Like, you're the same person. She's like, it doesn't matter. And I was like, it doesn't matter. And like, it kind of like turned on a light bulb, figuratively. And I was just like, it doesn't matter. I am still me. She's like, you're still you. Like, you're still the core of who you are. We still hang out the same way, still have the same conversations. Like, nothing's changed. And then after that, I went on to tell my family, which was a little bit harder. Again, my mother said she knew. My father didn't say anything at all. My brothers also didn't say anything at all, because my brothers they're all in their own journey. Some of them, they're learning self-love, and they're growing up in a world where they're being pressured by what it means to be a man. Like, again, there's so many other outside factors. I'm not going to speak on them, but they didn't really say much of anything. It was my mother and my best friend that kind of gave me that reaction. And my mother actually hugged me. She said, "It's okay, like I still love you." And she said those types of things, and we were able to mend something that day. And moving forward, she gained respect in me because I came at her in a way that was, I no longer care what anybody has to say. I'm unapologetically me. I am who I am. And if you don't like it, even if you're family, then I'll have to love you from a distance. I'll still love you. I'll still pray for you. Still. But I will have to love you from a distance. You do not deserve to have access to my life if you don't accept me. Simple. That goes for anybody. You do not deserve me if you can't accept me, even a part of me. Okay, I'm not going to allow you in my world because my world is protected. I curated and created a world where I feel safe. I'm accepted. I love myself. It's self-love over here. It's confidence. It's as I said, acceptance. And if you do not add to that, or if you don't accept certain parts of me, I'm protecting myself. I have a bubble now of safety. I have a bubble of community. I have a bubble of unity. And I uphold that and I protect that with everything. And once she kind of realized that, and once other people realized that, you should have seen like the respect that they had for me amplified. It amplified, dare I say, because again, I came out as gay, but also too, I don't give up what people say. I don't care. And I still love myself. I love myself even more now because I found out who I am and I found myself, and I don't care what people say. And it's like, people now, like, they are intimidated of me because it's like, whoa, like you're still who you are, but you're more confident in who you are and you don't care. And if somebody tries you, you move along. Those things don't stick with you. You don't get embarrassed. You don't feel clowned. You don't feel toyed with. Nobody can toy with you. Nobody can try to sun you. Nobody can do anything because they have to respect you. And if they don't, you remove yourself from that situation. So coming out was the best thing that I've ever done. Because it was a huge obstacle for me that I thought I would never have to overcome. And let me tell you, there's a lot of people who are going through these things internally, and they live their whole life without discovering who they are. But not even that, but they live their whole life being afraid to tell the world who they are because they feel bound to commitments. They feel bound to other people's perception of who they are. They feel that they have to please people, and they feel trapped their whole life, and they become miserable people. They become secretive, manipulative people who engage in infidelity, distrust, and they just, if not, then they end up hating people too who express themselves, and they end up projecting because there's something internally in there that's too afraid to come out because of whatever they have going on in their life. So I'm telling you, the day that I came out, I felt free. There's no more hiding. There's nothing of me to hide. Everything has been brought up to surface. This is who I am. Take it or leave it. If you leave it, respectfully, it's okay. Still love you. I don't hate you. I don't hate nobody. I'll still pray for you, and I hope that you have that self-love within yourself as well, and that acceptance, because you should never hate on somebody who just loves who they are. I'm not imposing nothing on nobody. I would never impose nothing on nobody. The way I live my life is the way I live my life. I still talk to my God. I still, I'm still living a healthy lifestyle. I still exercise. I take care of myself. I treat my body as a temple. Again, I love who I am. And I would never impose anything that I do on anybody else, because what works for me might not work for you. But what I can say is self-love is universal, and you should all have self-love. Self-love doesn't just look like how it did for me. It might look something different for you. But at the end of the day, it's something that we all need to acquire, because when you're unapologetically yourself, then nobody can take that from you. It's something that you can protect, and it's something that you have for the rest of your life. And it's a mark that you will leave and etch onto this world that will never be erased. Because again, self-love is something that is longed for. It's something that people go to the ends of the earth for, and they feel that they can never find and acquire. And when they see it in other people, it kind of makes them envious, because again, they feel that they can never acquire that, or that's out of their reach. Meanwhile, it's around the corner. They just need to embrace that. They need to embrace who they are. They need to accept who they are, and they need to release themselves from the strongholds of society, social media, and other people's perceptions of who they think they should be.
question again?
I think the question was, I don't even remember the question.
Something about, I think, family?
Yes, coming out to your family and friends, yeah.
Well, I feel like friends-wise, I don't know, friends have always been kind of come and go, so it's like I don't really have the opportunity to necessarily express that to friends.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of family, I think that the first person I really genuinely told was my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And she welcomed me, honestly, I could say, with open arms.
Yeah,
and
she's very sweet.
It was such a nice experience that I could, rely on her. Because I feel like, well, for context, my father passed away when I was 13. So it was just me and my mother. And my mother, when I told her, at first she didn't really kind of like believe me because first I told her I was bisexual, and she was like, okay, whatever with that. I think what started was like when in the pandemic, I think it was, I had painted my nails, and I was painting a lot. So I took a picture. She only found out because I took a picture holding up like one of my paintings, and it had like nail polish on my thumb or whatever. And then she sent me like this long like paragraph letter thing telling me about why it's like bad and stuff. And then I forget what I did. I think I waited a couple days to respond, and then I think she called me, and then I know I had told my grandmother, and my grandmother went to bat for me, and she defended me and stuff. But yeah, when I did eventually tell her, she didn't really take it the best. She said she'll love me and like thing regardless, like, which is nice to hear. But one thing she did say was, you just have to understand, like, I'll never agree with it, and I'll never like fully, I guess, accept it. And I feel like when you hear those kind of words from people, my mother is very conservative, so like I still love her and stuff, but for my own like mental health and like sanity, I feel like from that time onward, and he was there when because I really like fully, I guess, came out to her fully, I guess, as my first boyfriend, to my mother, like, was with him. And yeah, so like when that happened, like I had to kind of withdraw my personality, like I kind of like, for like my own kind of boundary, I kind of withdrew an aspect of myself. I still talk to her like weekly, and like we're still, like cordial and close like that, but she's always like within like, I guess, arm's reach, just because I've kind of like what you were saying earlier, kind of like put that kind of boundary around my life, the boundary around my happiness, and I still love her and she still loves me, and that's not like the problem, but like, like those types of words are like lasting and like lingering. So it's just like, yeah, I put that kind of boundary for that. But in terms of like my grandmother, she welcomed me with open arms, and that was like the first, I guess, impression that I had from family. So that was a really beautiful experience, and I actually introduced him to my grandmother before I introduced him to my mother, and it was nice. But yeah, so I feel like coming out to family, not everybody's gonna always be on the same page. You can't always change people's minds. Some people have it very deeply ingrained in their beliefs and in their minds, whether that be for cultural reasons or religious reasons or what have you. Even though if you want to go far enough back, you can really unpack, why that is, and like what the root of that is, in terms of how those kind of beliefs were inorganically placed into people's kind of ideologies, if you will. But at the end of the day, you can't change everybody, and that's okay. As long as you have that core anchor, and you surround yourself with loving, like-minded, open-hearted individuals in your life, and you know what's best for you. You know what's best for what your environment should look like, and like the type of love that you wish to give and receive. It should only be like a mirror for how you feel about yourself,
For sure.
internally. So I feel like, yeah, it's a beautiful life. I have my partner, I have my dog, I have my cat. Yeah, pretty good. I like to exercise. I take care of myself. Treat my body as a temple. And I feel like, you know, I don't know if this is. It's not really going on topic, but like I guess my relationship with God and my religiosity, the religiosity of it all. I guess, you know, with the clobber passages of whatever really kind of made me, dig deep within my relationship with religion, because I know my relationship with God is separate from that, and I feel like a lot of that's like a whole, I guess, thing to unpack, but like at the end of the day, you have to realize that a lot of things that are transcribed in the current day and age, a lot of things have been like words have been changed over time, but the essence, the core essence of the message for us, we're both Christian. I could say that confidently, but Jesus Christ, the essence of that, the essence of unconditional love, the essence of, having a savior, a God that can die on the cross for you and love you wholeheartedly, regardless of what class, race, creed, every type of person is kind of welcome with open arms unconditionally, and that's the true essence, the true nature of the divine and God, and God is love at the end of the day. And it's beautiful to have kind of come to that revelation. There was a lot of times of swaying and questioning, but at the end of the day, that's what's been revealed, and it's beautiful, and I couldn't be happier, honestly. So I'm gonna check. It's a long video. I guess so. That was kind of the touching on the next thing, but okay. So, what advice, I guess, would you have as like final message to viewers in terms of people who are not like out yet, or people who are still struggling with that identity, that aspect of their identity, because you guys are more than just your sexuality? What advice would you have as a takeaway?
It's a very convoluted and deep question, and it deserves a very delicate answer. So here's where I would start. Anybody who is dealing with those types of those self-identity issues and just the traumas that come with all those types of things, you have to understand you are in a very delicate position right now, where it could either make you or break you. You're in a position where the media and society does not necessarily support people like us, and as much as they say they do, it's one thing, and then when you come out, it's a whole other thing. The way the world is made, it's made to suppress you, and it's made to make you feel like something's wrong with you. And again, you'll notice this within your amongst your peers, amongst your family, amongst different types of things, depending on the type of family that you have. But what I just want to say is that you have to cling on to who you are, and you have to remember what makes you happy. You have to remember the things that bring genuine joy to you, and you also have to remember that you're not living for other people. You have to remember that at the end of the day, you have to be satisfied with the choices that you made at the end of your life. If life could be a type of situation where at the end of our lives, we have to read the book from beginning to finish based on our life and all the decisions that we made, you have to make sure that you're satisfied with the decisions that you've made within your life. You have to make sure that every day that you were living in a way that was pleasing you. You have to live in your truth. You have to live in your identity, and you have to accept who you are despite everything. It is a battle versus the self and versus the world. And you have to understand it's a battle that can be won, because it's your birthright to have a place within this world. Life is your birthright. But as Beyonce said, they hid that in the fine print. But you have to take your pen and you have to rewrite that. Because again, you have to understand that you are normal. There is nothing wrong with you. There is nothing wrong with what you like. You are not hurting anybody. You are not hurting yourself. You're living in your truth. And you have to understand the beauty in that. You have to understand that you are different. But guess what? You were never made to stand in. You were made to stand out. You were made to be different. Your light was made to shine. Even when people try to dim your light or try to tell you that you're too bright, you have to understand that that was the life path that was chosen for you. You have to understand that you're special and there's something within you that is special and that is worth bringing to the surface. You have to understand that living in your truth will sometimes come with people who will judge you. There's people who will project, there's envious people, there's jealous people, there's people who also are unhappy people that may project their unhappiness onto you to make it feel like there's something wrong with you, but in reality, there's something wrong with them that's not addressed. Hurt people hurt people. So what I'm going to tell you is live in your truth, cling to who you are for your dear life, and understand that every choice that you make, you have to be satisfied with that choice. Are you living for them or are you living for you? And you guys know who I'm talking to. The ones who get it, and the ones who are listening, listen to this. Love yourself, love the skin you're in, and stand 10 toes on every choice that you make. And if there's people who judge you, and let me tell you something, right? There might be family, okay? Your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, your auntie, your uncle, your niece, your nephew, your grandmother, your grandfather, your great-grandmother, great-grandma. It might be your best friend. It might be an ex. It might be your current partner. They might judge you for these types of decisions, but understand if they cannot accept you for who you are, then they do not deserve you. Okay? Don't give them a part of you, because if they don't accept a part of you, then they don't deserve any access to you. Okay? Especially when these people who do not accept you are not making any effort to learn how to accept you. Because sometimes it's a journey for people to on the path of acceptance. Sometimes there's people who may be ignorant to certain things, who may not know. There's some people who may have to learn. It's okay, because again, you can't expect everybody to automatically be comfortable with something, but people who genuinely love you, they will try. They will make that effort to meet you there because they love you and they want you in their life. Now, the people who treat you different when you live in your truth, that's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and you need to let them go because they were never of any service to you. Let those people go, my boy, my girl, my person. Listen to me right now. Let those people go, because those people are destiny swappers. Those people are people who just liked a certain aspect of you and liked a certain particular version of you, very particular, and you had to mold yourself to that person in order to have that person remain. And you were afraid of having them see any other version of you because they might not accept that. But guess what? That's not a friend. That's not a family member. That's not love. That is not love. That is temporal acceptance. And that type of acceptance is not the acceptance that you need. You don't need that. You don't need that. You need people who love you for who you are. You are beyond what you like. You are beyond your certain views and certain opinions on things. You are you at your core. And the people who want to be around you love you for that reason. And the people who don't never liked you to begin with. They just liked a version of you. They liked having access to that certain type of version. Perhaps you were the party person, or you were the person that gave advice. You were the person that gave, but you never received. Let me tell you something, right? You need to start cutting people within your circle, and you need to start reevaluating who you have in front of you, because that will encourage you to bring out what's internal and externalize that. That'll help you. Are you okay?
I swallowed some spit.
Sorry. That'll help you to grow, and that'll help you to make the necessary steps to bring about that growth and that truth, and to live in that. And when you live in that truth, understand that it's a constant battle. It is a constant battle against opposing opinions. We are dealing with so many people on this earth who have different views and opinions, and understand at times they might clash with yours. At times they might go against what you believe in, but guess what? It's okay. An opinion is an opinion, and it doesn't mean anything unless you make that stick to you. It doesn't mean anything unless you give it meaning. It just is words in somebody's mouth, and it's somebody's view. But if it doesn't pertain to you, it doesn't pertain to you. So let people say what they want. Let people judge you. Let people cut you off. Let people, tarnish your name. You don't have to fight for who you are because you've already established who you are. You know who you are. So anything that people can say and spread about you, it doesn't matter because you're already confident in who you are. So stand 10 toes. Stand 10 toes. 10 toes down in that. And love you for you. Because the minute you love you for you, everybody else is outside noise. Unless they're bringing to that. So just remember that, okay?
I feel like, yeah, I agree with that. You have to be the best version of yourself. You have to be you fully and like 100% wholeheartedly. There's only one you.
Yeah.
You're made in the Most High's image. You're like perfect in every single facet of your identity and every single aspect of your mind and your likes, your dislikes, your everything, like your aura, your vision, your skin tone, your hair, your everything is perfect. And there'll never be another you.
Never.
And we only, it's funny because when we're in the now and when we're living our lives as we are, we don't really understand the full grasp of how rare, how special, how nuanced, how unique we are as individuals. And like the fact that you're here existing in the same time as us, as the same time as everything that's going on in the world, and the whole timeline of like humanity, like you incarnated right here, right now, to experience this life and this body, and you're worth it. And I feel like there's a lot of people who get pushed to the edge and feel like there's no other choice, but you have to talk yourself down from that ledge and talk yourself into understanding and knowing and loving who you are, but knowing that at the end of the day, like you're here for a reason. Your voice matters, your opinion matters, your perspective matters. There's nobody else who can see the lens through your eyes, through the world through your eyes, and I feel like it's so important to know that and to love yourself and to truly understand that this whole journey is about the unfolding, it's about the flowering, the blossoming of your soul into like its truest, highest potential and expression. And every day we're here to learn. Every day we're here to grow, and to some days we make mistakes, some days there's ups, some days there's downs, but at the end of the day it's all in the grand scheme of things. The journey of your life and the journey of accepting and coming full circle, coming home to yourself, the homecoming of you to you. And in the grand scheme of things, we're really just a speck in this whole universe. We're just a piece of dust, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We're just like a moment in time. So every day that you wake up, you just have to give thanks and be grateful, that you can have another chance to make things a more aligned version of what you consider happiness and what your heart truly desires, what your soul truly desires, and it's a beautiful thing, this life. It's a gift and it's a blessing, and every day you wake up is another chance to make it right. So don't forget that you're loved, and if your immediate surrounding doesn't reflect that, just know that someone out there loves you. We love you. You're loved, you're beautiful, you're perfect, you're whole, just as you are. So
you have to understand, and that was very beautiful, and it's what he said is very true. This is your story, and you are the author, and you are the finisher, and you determine how your story goes. And you have to take power, take that back, take that control back, and live in what it means to be authentically you. Again, it's your story. It's your story, and it plays out the way you want it to. Don't let anybody take the pen from your hand. It's your pen, it's your story. So live in your truth. Be who you are. Love yourself. love those around you, and I hope this video really resonates with you. This is JC Unfiltered, video number 3. You see that? 3. I can't do that properly. Anyways, 3. And so I hope this, I hope you resonate with this. Let us know how this made you feel. Let us know if there was any aspect within what we talked about, this discussion today, that, really hit home for you. Let us know, what was your coming out story? How did that affect your relationship with your friends? How was it with yourself? And how is your life now that you live in your truth? And that can also go to so many other things when it comes to living in who you are, because humans are so judgmental, humans are so nuanced, and everybody has an opinion, and everybody feels like that they can impose that on you. So let us know. Again, this is one of many. We will be back.